If anything, they figured he won merely because of the element of surprise. Nathan had no real urge to tell them otherwise, since he knew this first examination meant very little. Had Nathan been a normal 14-year-old youth, this event might have meant the world to him. But Nathan was far from normal. With the soul of an experienced fighter in a youth's body, Nathan knew this was going to be easy. As a low-level master stage warrior, this examination was going to be a piece of cake. On a stage in the center of the plaza, the master of ceremonies explained the rules of the competition to the audience. "Citizens of Godric Shell, are you ready for the examination to begin?" Fabulous. Now remember, the exam is broken up into 3 stages. 3 ways to test a student's spiritual fighting capabilities: speed, strength, and combat. For the test of speed, the students must sprint many laps around this field. For strength, they must lift the heaviest stone boulder they can manage for as long as they can. For combat, they must show off their swordsmanship. Nathan ignored the announcements, as he had heard it all before. Instead, he began to stretch and quietly knelt and prayed to the heavens for strength. As he did so, he ignored a few dirty glances from some former classmates from the Academy of the Mystic Blades who stood nearby. "Heavens, guide me through this test. Allow me to make my family proud, and let me wield the power of Asura as I need to." As Nathan stood, he walked over to the rear of a cluster of students pushing to stand at the starting line of the first part of the examination, the race. The rules were simple. Students must run 10 laps around the massive plaza's perimeter. After every lap, they were given a ribbon to wear around their neck. Once they had received all 10 ribbons, they could approach the race official and record their results.
"Ha! Watch out, Hayfield. You might just have to start your race with a broken leg. That wouldn't be fun now, would it? I wonder how many times I'd be able to lap you then."
John Crane chortled as he brushed right up beside Nathan at the starting line. Nathan took a breath and then felt John's elbow press into his side. Before John could react, Nathan swiftly pushed him several inches back. John cursed under his breath as he swatted Nathan's hand away and moved further down the starting line.
"How dare you push me? You better watch out during the race."
Nathan smiled. John had no way of knowing that when Nathan pushed him, he had released the Asura Weakening Aura through his palms and into John Crane's body. This subtle form of spiritual magic could be incredibly powerful, but Nathan's spiritual levels were still low enough that it inflicted only minor damage on John. Still, over the course of the day, it would no doubt sap him of his physical strength, his spiritual energy, and his will to go on. The real reason Nathan smiled was because he knew that the very fact that he could use this technique meant that he had definitely reached a middle rank of the master level. As Nathan settled back into his regular form of breathing, he waited for the race to begin. Across a herd of anxious faces, Nathan's calm demeanor stood out as the officials prepared to shoot the fire arrow announcing the start of the examination. From the corner of his eye, Nathan spotted a welcoming sight. It was Baelor, shivering from nerves. Nathan waved to his friend to catch his attention. Baelor was too far away to speak to, but when he saw Nathan, he immediately calmed down, reassured by his friend's presence. Baelor waved back and then nodded toward the student beside him. Nathan's eyes widened. Standing next to Baelor at the starting line was none other than Stewart Lightstone. Stewart nodded his head respectfully toward Nathan. Nathan grinned and nodded back. Re-inspired by the sight of his allies, Nathan felt confident there would be no trickery or sabotage of his race by House Raven or House Clay. As the official with the bow tried and failed to light the arrow to announce the start, Stewart whispered something in Baelor's ear. Baelor nodded profusely and then rushed down the line of racers toward Nathan. "Baelor, my friend, what is it?" As Baelor reached him, He immediately whispered in Nathan's ear.
A word of caution from Stewart. His father told him that this race is not as simple as it seems. There are unseen obstacles that you must be wary of.
What sort of obstacles? Finally, the official's arrow caught fire, and he shot it high into the sky. As the arrow arched and reached its zenith, it exploded into a massive fireworks display. Before Nathan could get anything more from Baelor, the tide of racers pushed them forward past the starting line. The spiritual warrior examination had begun. Nathan was trapped in a river of his peers as hundreds of competitors sprinted forward on the first lap of the speed trial. Anxious nerves had got the best of them all, and so the speed at the start was lightning quick, which caused many to fade as they rounded the first corner of the plaza. Despite all the terrified faces around him, Nathan stayed remarkably calm. The entire race was shorter than his average training run around the city, so he knew this would be far from difficult. Within a few short strides, Nathan made his way through the surrounding foot traffic to the very front of the race. He stayed just behind the leader of the race, and all those nearby stared at Nathan's relaxed state. Everyone around him was already sweating profusely and gasping for air, while Nathan simply glided forward with easy, shallow breaths like he was out for a gentle walk. A few other lead runners wondered aloud between heavy breaths.
Fuck me. Who is that? How is he making this look so easy? That's insane. He just sprinted up here from the very back of the pack. There's no way he can keep that pace up for the whole 10 laps. Even if I charged full steam ahead for 50 meters, I still couldn't match his speed.
At this point, it was already clear that Nathan was on another level from the rest of the pack. By the third corner turn of the first lap, he had already created a sizable lead over the next fastest runner, who was just then passing the second corner and looking close to passing out from the effort. After Nathan completed his first lap, most of the field was still barely a quarter of the way around the plaza. As Nathan turned into the second lap, he smiled. Suddenly, the track itself had disappeared and been replaced with thick, gooey mud, the first real obstacle. Nathan used the power of Asura to channel spiritual energy into his feet, which allowed him to trudge through the mud quickly without much trouble. Behind him, the pace of the others slowed dramatically as they slipped around and struggled to pull their feet out of the mud. By the time most students had finished one lap, Nathan had already completed 3. Meanwhile, toward the rear of the pack, John Prane stumbled forward slowly, only halfway through the first lap. The Asura Weakening Aura had done its job well. At the start of the race, John had felt sluggish, his breathing was off, and his legs were heavy. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't quite seem to focus his attention, and all he could dwell on was dread and thoughts of failure. Although he was a level 6 beginner, his current performance would put him on par with a level 3 beginner at best. As Nathan finished 5 laps, the muddy track had disappeared, this time replaced with a series of hot coals that students were expected to leap over. Nathan, however, simply smiled as he raced across the hot coals without fear. Despite the heat, Nathan seemed utterly untroubled by it as he picked up speed. Many laps behind him, the faster runners tried to copy Nathan, only to yelp in pain as the coals scorched their feet. As most of the runners slowed down even further to jump over the coals, Nathan sprinted faster and faster until his peripheral vision blurred. The audience watching couldn't believe the electrifying performance they were witnessing. As Nathan raced across a particularly huge section of coals, the crowd roared with admiration. When Nathan reached his final lap, the obstacles on the track changed one final time. This time, large spikes shot out of the ground every 20 feet. In order to avoid them, students had to wait a few moments before they retreated back into the ground. Students who timed their movements poorly could get skewered by the spikes. The crowd gasped at the final challenge of the race as Nathan charged toward the first stretch dotted with spikes. As Nathan approached, the spikes shot out of the ground. Rather than wait for them to lower, Nathan leaped into the sky and arched his back to clear them before landing and smoothly transitioning into a run. The crowd cheered their new champion, as other runners, many laps behind him, admired Nathan's skills. Nathan continued leaping over the spikes until he crossed the finish line and quickly caught his breath. Nathan had completed the 10-lap race in the time it took most runners to finish 5 laps. Nathan smirked as John Crane walked the course behind. John was only on the 3rd lap, and by that point, he was fighting back the urge to give up. Nathan took the 10 ribbons he'd received and trotted over to the race's official's table. The official, who had been chatting with a few audience members, hadn't witnessed Nathan's performance. The race official's brow furrowed when Nathan tapped him on the shoulder.
"Hello, sir. I believe I'm supposed to report to you now?" "What do you mean, boy? Don't you understand you're supposed to finish the race and then come over?"
"But, sir, I have finished the race." The race official scoffed. He couldn't believe it.
"Bull crap. You must have cheated or something. Nobody finished this quickly."
Nathan held up the 10 ribbons around his neck as proof and smiled at the official.
"I promise you, sir, I did not cheat. Please, check my ribbons. The finish line judge will attest to my statements."
The race official looked over to the finish line, where his subordinate gave him a thumbs up. The race official shook his head in amazement.
"Very well then, lad. You must really be something else."
The race official took out Nathan's file from a stack of papers on his desk and marked it with a special stamp, giving Nathan a perfect score. He held the stamped file out to Nathan and smiled.
"Congratulations, young warrior. Here, take this and go on to the next round of the exam." "Thank you, sir. I will."
Nathan saluted the official and then headed over to one corner of the plaza where a massive sand pit had been built. As he arrived at the sand pit, the second-round officials waiting nearby were shocked. A few of them voiced their surprise to one another.
"Heavens, watch over us. For a warrior that young to have such strength, I doubt we could complete the first round as fast as he just did, and we're 20 years his senior. Could it be that Godric's Land is home to a future champion? A super genius fighter that one finds only once every 100 years?
As Nathan approached the head official for the second round, it was clear that they had yet to finish their preparations for the event. Typically, they'd have at least another hour or two to get ready. Nathan, more than a little confused, wondered aloud if he was in the right place.
"Is this where the strength stage is supposed to take place?"
The second-round official squinted at Nathan as he walked into the sand pit.
What examination are you here to test for exactly? You must be lost. If you're looking for the race stage, it's down over there." "Oh, no, sir. I've already finished the race stage. I'm looking for the second round stage, the strength competition." "Really? Honestly? Already?" "Yes, sir. Honestly." "Well, then, you're not lost. You've come to the right place, then. Here, let me see your file."
Nathan handed the second-round official his file. The official scoured the document to ensure it was legitimate, then gasped as he saw that Nathan had been given a perfect score on the first round.
"Nathan Hayfield, right? Well, we aren't quite ready just yet for everybody, but I guess since you're here so early, it won't hurt to let you continue on alone. Pick the heaviest boulder in the sand pit you can carry, and as long as you're able to lift it up over your head 100 times, you'll pass." "All right. Thank you, sir."
Typically, the boulders would have been in a neat column in the sand, with the boulders lined up from smallest to largest and lightest to heaviest. Because the officials weren't ready, all the boulders were still piled up in a jumbled mess together by the edge of the sand pit. Nathan examined the pile of boulders and frowned. The second official noticed Nathan's look.
"Is there a problem, young warrior?" "Yes, excuse me, but which of these boulders is the heaviest?"
The second official stared blankly at Nathan for a moment, then pointed to a massive boulder at the very back of the rock pile.
That big one back there is over 6,000 pounds. But don't bother yourself with it. We just keep it there as a humble reminder that one's strength always has a limit.
Would it be all right if I chose that one, sir?
All right. Son, if you can lift that boulder over your head once, I'll give you a perfect score right now.
Nathan nodded. He stepped forward and loosely gripped the edges of the boulder. The few onlookers by the sandpit chuckled at the sight of this little teenager gripping a rock 6 times his size. Nathan took a deep breath. His feet burrowed deep into the sand under the immense weight above him as his muscles flexed. In a single fluid motion, the massive boulder lifted up over his head. The huge rock remained perfectly balanced over his body and did not waver even slightly. Nathan smiled at the small crowd's shocked reaction. His relaxed face told them all everything they needed to know. This wasn't even close to the limit of his real power. Rather than immediately set the boulder down, Nathan proceeded to swiftly lift it up and over his head 100 times. In a few short minutes, Nathan set the boulder down and wiped away a single bead of sweat on his forehead. The second round official kept a calm outward appearance, but internally, his heart beat fast. His brain surged with emotions, trying to process what had just happened.
Incredible. I even told him he only needed to lift the boulder once, but he did the 100 lifts anyway, just for the hell of it. Who is this kid exactly?
The second round official smiled as he came up to Nathan and inspected the massive boulder.
Fantastic form, young man. Truly remarkable. Let me just inspect your work here. There's no way he cheated, right? Could he have somehow switched out our boulder in the dead of night with a fake one? Is that even possible? Perhaps I should check to make certain.
The second round official felt the cool stone under his palms and shook his head. He took a deep breath and tried to lift it himself, but even with every muscle bulging, he could barely move it, let alone pick it up. A few nearby witnesses laughed at the absurdity of it all. Somehow, this 14-year-old kid could lift a massive boulder 100 times without difficulty, while a fully grown warrior could only make a fool of himself as he leaned against the boulder and tried to use his body weight to make it bud. Finally, the second round official sighed and gave up. If it weren't for the fact that the man knew all students' credentials were heavily inspected, he would have assumed that Nathan was actually a powerful warrior well into his 20s. The second round official shook his head as he turned away from the gigantic boulder and smiled at Nathan.
Congratulations, young warrior. You've passed once again with a perfect score.
The second round official swiftly stamped Nathan's file and motioned toward the center of the plaza.
Please head into the center of the plaza for the final round of the examination. And good luck. I'm sure you'll make quite the impression over there.
Thank you, sir. I will do as you say. Nathan took back his file and saluted the official. Then he waved goodbye to the awestruck audience around him. Soon he was on his way to the center of the plaza, where a training field had been built within a colorful makeshift stadium. As soon as Nathan faded from view, the second round official's smile faded. Frantically, he left the sandpit and headed toward a wooden watchtower that overlooked the entire square. The second round official huffed and sweated as he climbed a ladder up to the tower as fast as he could. Rung after rung, he ascended until he reached a small viewing station that was 50 feet tall. On the platform, an old, bald man sat on a dark gray cushion as he oversaw the examination. He was the man in charge of the spiritual fighting exam. The old man yawned as he stared down through a spyglass at the ongoing race. The second round official knelt before his superior.
Grand Elder Elric, sir, there's something I must report at once. What is it now? I can't imagine it's so important that you'd really have to disrupt my observations. But it is important, sir. Nathan Hayfield. Yes, the fast one. I heard about him before I even got up here. What of him? How's he managing in the sand pits? He already managed it, sir. lifted the 6,000-pound boulder over his head, and not only that, but he did it 100 times in a row like it was nothing. It might as well have been a sack full of feathers. He must have made some sort of pact with heaven to wield such strength.
Grand Elder Elric's brow furrowed.
How strange. Did you inspect the boulder? Check to see if he'd done it properly? Yes, Elder Elric. I even tried to lift it myself.
And?
It's 6,000 pounds, sir.
Fascinating.
What should I do, sir? He's on his way to the final stage as we speak. Should I alert the Doom faction?
No, not yet. I'll contact them myself. If he manages the third stage as you suspect he will.
I'll bet my money on it, sir.
Well, come on then. Let's go see if he'll make you a rich man. Elder Eldrix slid down the tower ladder as the second-round official slowly trailed his boss. All eyes were on Nathan when he passed the makeshift stadium and entered the training field. The stadium itself was only partially full, as most people expected the competitors to arrive several hours from now. Frankly, at this point, the people of the fiefdom would have been impressed if any of their warriors had finished the race stage by now, let alone the strength stage. And yet, here was Nathan, casually strolling up to the third-round official's desk.
Sorry, young man. You must be lost. Are you looking for the second round's venue?
Nathan simply smiled as he handed the official his file. The official's eyes widened as she saw his perfect score stamps.
But, this can't be possible.
The official stood up and was about to say something else when she caught a glimpse of Elder Elric out of the corner of her eye. Elric stood at the very top row of the stadium with his spyglass. Beside him, the second-round official nodded his head at her. The third-round official's tone grew more officious as she motioned for Nathan to follow her.
Very well, then. Please, follow me, young warrior.
Nathan trailed the official as she led him into the middle of the training field. All around the field stood 6-foot-tall wooden training puppets armed with wooden training swords.
What level of combat difficulty do you wish to face?
What's the highest level?
Well, easy would be fighting 3. Medium is 6. Advanced is 9.
I see you have 10 puppets here.
You want 10? Sure. Why not go for the perfect score here as well? Just be warned, they're not like your average puppets. These puppets hit back, and not softly either. Elder Elric has enchanted each of them with some of his spiritual aura. In order for you to pass, you must survive the onslaught of all 10 of them attacking you at once for 10 minutes straight.
Thank you for the warning, but I'd still like to face them all, if that's all right.
You got it, young warrior. Just don't say I didn't warn you.
Nathan waited patiently in the center of the training field as the third round officially activated all 10 of the puppets using her spiritual energy. Finally, she turned to him and tossed him a wooden training sword.
Your sparring match begins now. Good luck.
Nathan nodded his head and chuckled as he took up a defensive stance.
If only she knew how simple this was for me.
Despite their enchantment, the puppets were made of wood and could execute only basic sword-fighting movements and techniques. To a high-level beginner, they would have been an extremely difficult opponent to face, but to Nathan, this was nothing to worry about. Through the wooden training puppets, Nathan sensed that Elder Elric was only an apprentice level 7, so Nathan knew that the puppets didn't stand a chance against him, as they were only as powerful as the one who had enchanted them. As soon as the third-round official stepped out of the training field, Nathan felt a gust of wind blow around him as the 10 puppets attacked him simultaneously. As Nathan leaped out of the way at the last possible moment, he thought about how impossible this challenge would be for any typical student at a sword-fighting academy. Luckily, he was no typical student, and as he countered a furious series of sword blows from the puppets all at once, He finally felt as if he understood his own strength. Nathan was now a Master Level 6 spiritual warrior. He knew that even if he stopped blocking or parrying the puppets' sword thrusts and let them try their best to harm him, they would be unable to do any real damage to his body. However, Nathan was not the type of warrior to simply sit back and let his opponents hit him. Nathan focused his attention, and time began to slow. The nearest puppet leaped up toward him with the intention of landing an overhand slice to cut Nathan's head. In milliseconds, Nathan's training sword severed the puppet's head from its body. The wooden torso fell apart in the air and was little more than kindling when it reached the ground. Elder Elric groaned from his view in the stands. He wiped the front of his spyglass and looked again, blinking over and over again to make sure he was seeing straight.
I knew this Hayfield lad would be special, but I never imagined this. It took all day and all of my spiritual energy reserves for me to enchant those puppets, and yet he swats them away and squashes them like they're flies. Even a low-tier apprentice-level warrior shouldn't be able to handle them this well. How strong is he, really?
The other 9 puppets leaped back and reevaluated their foe. 4 thrust their blade points at him from different angles, while 3 leaped into the air to slice him down from above. The final 2 puppets readied their swords to parry any counterattack from Nathan. Once again, Nathan's breath slowed down, and once again, he moved so fast that he saw the puppet's movements in slow motion. Nathan vaulted in the air and arched his blade around his body in a sweeping motion, brutally slicing off the 4 thrusting puppets' heads. As he landed, he rolled out of the range of the soaring puppets' swords. Nathan popped up out of the roll and proceeded to cut down the 3 leaping puppets before they could recover from their missed slice attacks.
Please subscribe to the Pocket FM YouTube channel and press the bell icon for instant notification. Check out our channel for more such exciting shows.